And I'm going to turn things over now for one of our spotlight features like we had yesterday. This time it's going to be Irene Charnley, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Smile Telecoms. You recall yesterday that we heard so much about connectivity, basically about ways to use cell phones that were strikingly original. It wasn't really planned that way, but over and over that's what came out. Well, her spotlight focuses on mobility and connectivity. So please welcome Irene Charnley.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, and good day. Technology. Just to start off with very quickly, that mobility, as we know it, mobility of communications has sparked a communication revolution, increasing and leading access to over 3.5 billion people, mobility and other communications globally. And yet, many of the traditional service providers cannot meet the ICT access of the underserved people and the masses in the world. And why? Because they cannot afford to. It's not economically viable. And the opportunity, if we look at the pyramid, most of the operators target the top pyramid of the people, and yet the bottom of the underserved people are not served by the current operators. And if we look at the opportunity, and in Africa, we can see that only about 35% of the population have been penetrated in terms of mobile connectivity, and yet the traditional operators in sub-Saharan Africa will only be able to drive penetration of up to 50% in sub-Saharan Africa. If we look at that pyramid, we can see that the masses of the bottom of the pyramid, underserved masses, these are people who earn $1 or $2 a day. And most of the people, research have proven that most people spend between 2.5% to 5% of that money on communication, because communication is very essential. And therefore, what is very much required is a paradigm shift, a shift that will radically provide a new and innovative approach that is needed to address the communication needs of the masses, and especially the bottom of the pyramid. It's very important that we understand, where do people live, where do they work, where do they trade, and where do they socialize, and what quantities, what are the things they want, and in what quantities do they actually want it, and what price do they want it at. Very important, because if you don't understand that, we would not be able to serve the needs of the masses. And then it's very important for us to understand and know our market, because we know that a person and a family who earns less than $100 per month have a family. They have to make a living, they have to trade, they have to work, they have a social life. And therefore, these are people who need to communicate. They need communications, and therefore it is important to find a way of giving them the ability to communicate at something that, at an amount of money that they can afford. And therefore the need to change that whole paradigm shift that all of us have been seen and experienced, most of the people in that room, what we've said, we need to develop a low-cost business model and infrastructure. That means using infrastructure that is low cost, that's IP-based. Why? Because it is flexible and it is scalable. And also using open source technology. Why? Because the most and the best brains in the world are developing technology, put it out there, and it is for free. The challenge is also to bring the CapEx that's currently $100 to $2 per new subscriber down to 10% of that particular value. The second issue is to go where nobody is prepared to go, because if you can see on the screen all those roofs, these are people who live 8,000 to 10,000 people per square kilometer. And it is very important to target the people and to access the masses. You have to go to the people because you have to use the community-based way of marketing, word of mouth, because it is cheaper and it is low cost. You have to go to the people and interact with them on a personal basis and use people from the community to distribute the product. And then thirdly is to throw out all the traditional pricing. Because we're talking about people who can only afford one slice of the loaf of bread. And therefore, it's the same like technology and airtime. Airtime is a commodity. Instead of saying to somebody, you can pay $1 and you can talk for free for the whole day, most people at the bottom of the pyramid only have, at one particular time, 5 cents to make a call. And therefore, we've decided to throw out all of the non-conventional pricing and make something the smallest amount that people can buy. The ability of somebody to buy one slice of bread instead of a half a loaf or a loaf of bread. And that is very important. So what do we do? Because we are saying we are new and we're innovative communications operator. Most of the people here, how many of you have used Skype? Just to raise your hands very quickly, all of you. But you are privileged. What we've done, we've taken the same concept of Skype, giving everybody a number, a telephone number, and yesterday we've heard that people need to have an identity themselves, an ability for somebody to call them when they need people to call them. So we give everybody a telephone number, they choose a password, they can then use, they don't have to buy a handset. They can go out into the streets with somebody with an umbrella, and they can use their number and password, log into the telephone with their number. They can go and buy airtime. The number's transferred electronically on call the next billion people within the development world. We are making use of IP technologies because it is flexible, and we can use the IP technology to provide the ability for people to do voice using that IP-based technology. We can then, they can do SMSs or text messages, short emails that they can send to people who's on the network, and they can do any other value-added community service where it's community text messages within a particular area. The one issue that is very important for us is to use the people in the communities to do the distribution. It is going into the areas where people use, people whom the community knows, to distribute and sell the airtime to them. Explain, using the same people to train and educating people in how to use the technology. And with that, we believe we're having a huge impact on the social and economic development. So how do we do that from an operational point of view? We've developed what we call Smile in the Box, where all of the standardized tools and the processes are clearly defined, and it can go to any other operation across the world wherever people want to use a system. We're using the efficient technologies and applications, which are all open source driven. Everything is IP because of the scalability, as I've mentioned before. Important for us to have a lean and mean organization, highly talented people who are willing to give back, to work the extra hours, so you get few people that does a job of 5 people because they are passionate in terms of what they want to do. But you have to use the local people and local talent, as we've heard earlier. Use local talent and avoid the cost of expensive resources from outside of the country. And then what we're planning to do is to replicate whatever we're doing into the countries and use the success of the one model and do a franchising model across the world. And very important, and this is what we see, this is an operation that is actually happening today in Uganda. And we can do this in Uganda, Nigeria, the DRC, and Tanzania, and ultimately in South Africa. Once it is successful, we will take it and franchise it everywhere. First of all, a quality of the call within the homes, and that's a real customer of Smile into their home. And this is a home that is half the size of the stage where 8 to 10 people are staying. Next to that, this person can go and buy the airtime from a community rep under the umbrella, which is prepaid, and that's right there in their community. The airtime itself, the value, you can buy airtime at any value, whether it is 1 cent or 2 cents. If that is the money that you have, you can go and buy airtime. You can send a message to somebody, even if you don't have a phone, but you know, you can go and pick up the message from anybody else in there. And at the end of the day, the most important is to have a customer that is absolutely satisfied with the product, because that customer, even though it is low cost, that customer wants value for him or herself. And that is very important, and that is what we are focusing on. So what is very important is what we are bringing together is a broad number of organizations to make affordable access a reality for the underserved bottom of the pyramid communities. First of all, government is the facilitator by making sure that we have the necessary license to operate, because when you have a license, it gives you the ability to put up a network within the areas where people live and in the areas where people work. Once you do that, then you know you can provide quality service, and at the same time, government is meeting their own objective of providing access to the masses of people and ultimately their own voters. Very important, we're looking for, we have to get private investors, people who want a return, but whilst they get the return, they are also very, very clear that they want to make a contribution to uplift the lives of ordinary people. And it is possible. When you're socially responsible, profitability will be there and it will come, and we've proven that you can make money out of this. International and local media is very important, like this forum, to tell the story and, you know, of what people are doing and where the innovation is taking place. Industry bodies and advisors, very important to facilitate everything. Development agencies and funds, very, very key, because they take a long-term view. It then gives us the ability to roll out on a national basis rather than one city at a time. And in that, when you can roll out on a national basis and provide communications to the poor within the slum areas, it means that you have a greater impact on the lives of a lot more people. And then ultimately, a top-notch management. Because without the people, you cannot achieve that. But it has to be people that want to uplift the lives of other people. And it is people who are innovative, who has the skills, and who can live under 5 values. First one being that we know and we operate on the basis that everything is possible when we can do it with humanity, humility, and inspiration. When we can do that at the time, we will have the impact on the bottom of the pyramid and provide communications to them over a period of time and make a social and economic difference. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Jeff.